The North American auto industry, a tightly interwoven tapestry of production and trade, finds itself teetering on the brink of a crisis of unprecedented proportions. The culprit? New tariffs imposed by the United States on goods originating from Canada, a move that threatens to unravel decades of economic integration and plunge the industry into chaos. These tariffs, set at a staggering 25%, strike at the heart of a complex supply chain that relies on the seamless flow of parts and components across borders. This essay delves into the profound implications of these tariffs, examining their potential to cripple production, escalate costs, and disrupt the lives of millions of workers across North America. We will explore the unique vulnerabilities of the auto industry, particularly its dependence on just-in-time manufacturing, and the daunting challenges of relocating production facilities. Furthermore, we will dissect the political machinations surrounding these tariffs, including the conflicting messages emanating from the White House and the fervent lobbying efforts of industry leaders desperately seeking a reprieve from this impending disaster. The stakes are high, with the very future of the North American auto industry hanging precariously in the balance. The ramifications extend far beyond the factory floors and assembly lines. Consumers, too, face the prospect of higher prices for vehicles, potentially pushing car ownership out of reach for many. The economic ripple effects will be felt throughout the broader economy, impacting industries far removed from automotive manufacturing. The time for decisive action is now, for the longer these tariffs remain in place, the more severe and enduring the consequences will be. To comprehend the gravity of the situation, it's crucial to understand the intricate and deeply integrated nature of the North American auto industry. For over half a century, a complex web of suppliers, manufacturers, and assembly plants has evolved across the United States, Canada, and Mexico. This interconnectedness is not a random occurrence, but rather the result of deliberate efforts to leverage the unique strengths and capabilities of each nation, ultimately creating a more efficient and competitive industry. Parts flow freely across borders, often crossing international boundaries multiple times before a finished vehicle rolls off the assembly line. This integrated model, however, is now under immense strain. The tariffs, acting like blockages in a circulatory system, threaten to disrupt this delicate balance, driving up costs and creating chaos throughout the supply chain. The 25% levy imposed on each stage of the production process is particularly damaging, as it far exceeds the slim profit margins that are typical in the auto industry. This precarious financial reality, coupled with the uncertainty surrounding the duration and scope of the tariffs, has cast a long shadow over the industry, leaving businesses grappling with difficult decisions and fearing for their very survival. The auto industry's reliance on just-in-time manufacturing, a system designed to maximize efficiency and minimize waste, has become a double-edged sword in the face of these tariffs. Just-in-time operates on the premise that parts and components arrive at the factory precisely when needed, eliminating the need for large inventories and reducing storage costs. While this approach has proven highly effective in normal circumstances, it leaves the industry acutely vulnerable to disruptions in the supply chain. Any delay, whether caused by border checks, increased paperwork, or factory shutdowns, can have cascading effects, bringing production lines to a grinding halt. The tariffs have injected a dangerous dose of uncertainty into this delicate ecosystem. With the cost of imported parts suddenly subject to unpredictable fluctuations, manufacturers are struggling to plan production schedules or accurately forecast costs. The smooth flow of goods that just-in-time manufacturing depends on has been replaced by a climate of apprehension and unpredictability, leaving the industry teetering on the edge of a precipice. The economic consequences of these tariffs extend far beyond the immediate impact on the auto industry, sending shockwaves through the broader economy. The specter of job losses looms large, as manufacturers are forced to contemplate production cuts or even plant closures in the face of mounting costs. The ripple effects will be felt most acutely in communities where auto manufacturing plays a dominant role, impacting businesses far removed from the factory floor, from local suppliers to restaurants and retail stores. The tariffs represent a significant drag on economic growth, stifling investment and undermining consumer confidence. Moreover, the tariffs are fueling inflation, making vehicles less affordable for consumers. The increased costs of production are inevitably passed on to buyers in the form of higher prices, potentially pricing many out of the market for new cars. This, in turn, will have a negative impact on demand, further depressing economic activity. The tariffs represent a classic case of protectionism backfiring, harming the very economy they are intended to protect. The interconnected nature of the global economy means that such policies rarely achieve their intended goals and often lead to unintended consequences that far outweigh any perceived benefits. Section 5. A House divided, political discord and industry pleas. The imposition of these tariffs has ignited a firestorm of controversy, exposing deep divisions within the political landscape and pitting the White House against industry leaders who are sounding the alarm bells with increasing urgency. The administration, in defending its actions, argues that the tariffs are necessary to protect American jobs and incentivize companies to bring manufacturing back to the United States. However, these assertions ring hollow to many industry experts who point to the impracticality of uprooting deeply entrenched supply chains and the devastating economic fallout that will likely accompany such a move. Adding to the confusion and frustration is the lack of clarity surrounding the administration's long-term objectives. Conflicting messages and mixed signals from the White House have left the industry reeling, unsure of what to expect next. Meanwhile, a chorus of voices from across the auto industry, including manufacturers, suppliers, and labor unions, have risen in unison to condemn the tariffs, pleading for their immediate removal. They argue persuasively that these levies will irreparably harm the very industry they are intended to protect, leading to job losses, higher prices, and a decline in competitiveness. Their pleas, however, have so far fallen on deaf ears. Section 6. Manufacturing Exodus, a difficult and costly proposition. The White House's contention that the tariffs will trigger a resurgence in domestic manufacturing is based on the flawed premise that companies can easily and quickly relocate their operations. The reality, however, is far more complex and nuanced. Uprooting established manufacturing facilities and rebuilding them elsewhere is a monumental undertaking, requiring massive investments of capital and years of planning. Retooling factories, securing permits, and training a new workforce are just a few of the hurdles that companies face when considering such a move. Moreover, the specialized nature of auto manufacturing means that simply shifting production from one location to another is not always feasible. Certain regions have developed unique expertise in specific areas, such as engine production or transmission assembly, making it difficult, if not impossible, to replicate these capabilities elsewhere. The tariffs, therefore, are less likely to trigger a mass exodus of manufacturing and more likely to create chaos, uncertainty, and a chilling effect on investment. The economic damage inflicted by these tariffs will be felt long before any new factories are built on American soil. Section 7. Navigating Uncertainty, the auto industry's response. Caught in the crosshairs of this trade war, the auto industry finds itself in a precarious position, struggling to adapt to a rapidly changing landscape while grappling with the uncertainty of what the future holds. With no clear indication of how long these tariffs will remain in place, or whether they might even escalate further, companies are left with no choice but to make difficult decisions based on incomplete information. Some manufacturers, in an effort to mitigate the impact of the tariffs, have resorted to absorbing the increased costs, at least in the short term, rather than passing them on to consumers. This approach, however, is unsustainable in the long run and will inevitably lead to lower profits, reduced investment, and potential job losses. Others are exploring ways to adjust their supply chains, seeking out alternative sources for parts and components. This, however, is a complex and time-consuming process, as new suppliers must be vetted, contracts renegotiated, and logistics reconfigured. The tariffs have injected a high degree of volatility into the market, making it difficult for companies to plan for the future. Investment decisions are being delayed, new model launches are being postponed, and a sense of paralysis has gripped the industry as it waits anxiously for clarity on the trade front. Section 8. The road ahead. Potential scenarios and long-term implications. The path forward for the North American auto industry remains shrouded in uncertainty, with multiple potential scenarios unfolding depending on the duration and severity of the tariffs. If the tariffs are lifted swiftly, the industry may be able to weather the storm and emerge relatively unscathed. However, the longer the tariffs remain in place, the greater the likelihood of lasting damage. Prolonged tariffs could lead to a permanent restructuring of the industry, with companies forced to relocate production, sever long-standing supplier relationships, and fundamentally alter their business models. The consequences of such a scenario would be significant. Consumers would face higher prices and reduced choices, while workers would contend with job losses and economic hardship. The integrated nature of the North American auto industry, a testament to decades of collaboration and shared prosperity, would be irrevocably broken. The tariffs represent a dangerous gamble, one that threatens to undermine one of the most successful sectors of the North American economy. The stakes are high, not just for the auto industry itself, but for the millions of workers and consumers who depend on its continued vitality. Section 9 Conclusion: a call for cooperation and a return to sanity. The current crisis facing the North American auto industry is entirely self-inflicted, the result of misguided policies that threaten to unravel decades of economic integration and shared prosperity. The tariffs, far from protecting American jobs, are having the opposite effect, jeopardizing livelihoods on both sides of the border and undermining the competitiveness of a vital industry. The time has come for a return to sanity, for a recognition that the interconnected nature of the global economy demands cooperation, not confrontation. The tariffs must be lifted, and a renewed spirit of collaboration must guide trade relations between the United States, Canada, and Mexico. The North American auto industry has a long and storied history of innovation, resilience, and success. It has weathered economic storms, technological disruptions, and fierce competition. However, its ability to navigate the current crisis depends on the wisdom and foresight of policymakers. The choice is clear: embrace the principles of free and fair trade, or risk sacrificing one of the most important pillars of the North American economy on the altar of protectionism. The future, quite literally, is riding on it.